Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of Pick a Side, live reacting to the NBA playoffs. Tonight I'm with Dehls and Mr. John Tortorelli. Drew could not make it. He's spending some time with his girlfriend, and Riv is gonna be here tomorrow for the Western Conference Finals. Now, fellas, we just seen the Boston Celtics take a 2-0 series lead, beat the Pacers 126 to 110. For everybody that was waiting in the live, we appreciate you guys. We were waiting on John to come. Then I had to use the bathroom because that Jason Tatum shitter made me have to go shit. And I let out a big one for him, let it all out. Jaylen Brown, star of the night. Mr. Dehls, take the reign. Talk about your boy.
Whatever. First of all, how do I sound? I realized that my mic was connected. Am I sounding good?
You sound great, Dehls.
Okay. Big game for the Celtics. Listen, first of all, I think the biggest story to take away is going to be Halliburton's injury. I think that's the biggest thing you have to monitor. It's the same hamstring that bothered him earlier in January when he missed some time, came back, wasn't really himself. And it's a shame because these last 4 or 5 games of the playoffs, Halliburton has looked like the Halliburton we saw in November in those play-in tournaments when they were going toe-to-toe with the Bucks. When they beat the Celtics in the play-in tournament, he was looking like a superstar point guard. So it is unfortunate to see him go down with that injury, left sometime during the third quarter, never returns. But to talk about the game itself, this game was so important for Boston. You lose a pair of game twos already this postseason run. You lose game 2 against Miami where they're on fire from 3. They hit 23 threes. You lose game 2 against Cleveland at home. And the talk around Boston has still kind of been the same thing where we trust them because they're the best team in the East by far. They have the most talent. But there's still a little bit something there that it feels like they could still play with their food and don't take every game with the most urgency and responsibility as they should have. And this game, I think they did a really good job of taking the step in the right direction because, number one, you survive a absolute disaster class from Tatum in that first half. He was the only player in the Celtics starting lineup to have a negative plus-minus. He was -8, which was a complete 180 from from game 1 where he came off the court. Pacers going like a 9-0 run at the end of that third quarter, and all of a sudden it's a game going into the fourth. He really struggled to find his shot. Defensively, he wasn't as locked in. Second half, he was able to turn it around and look a little better. This game for the Celtics about Jaylen Brown. I mean, a 40-point game for Jaylen Brown. He was getting whatever he wanted. His step-back 3 was going in. He was attacking the basket well. He was hitting the pull-up midi. He was hitting everything. And it's great to have that co-star that could step up in these moments. And Jaylen Brown, this game was sensational. Celtics go up 2-0. You're going back to Indy. Don't know the status on Tyrese Halliburton. And you kind of have Kristaps Porzingis looming in that background because the latest report, or at least the only report that we got that was somewhat of a timetable, was there's a chance he returns game 4. Now, to be fair, they did say on the broadcast today that they don't know where they got the report from. That's what Mazzulla said. And there's nothing set in stone of when he does return. But the fact that you go up 2-0 and you have a bit of breathing room now, where you just have to go back to Indy. As long as you win 1 of 2, I mean, if Halliburton's out, realistically, you should sweep this team. Halliburton's playing, you win 1 of 2, you go back to Boston 3-1. There's not as much pressure now on Porzingis to come back and kind of rush back. That's why game 1 was so damn important for the Pacers. You win game 1, all the pressure's on Boston for game 2. Now you have this Halliburton injury, and you're like, listen, even if Halliburton has to miss a game, say we lose game 3, it's only 2-1. We have game 4 at home. We could tie it up and go back to Boston. But you lose game 1 in that fashion. Now you kind of get smoked in this game in that second half. Boston really came away with it. But overall, I mean, hats off to Jaylen Brown. He was the star of the show for Boston tonight.
Absolutely. Joel, would you like to go?
Listen, John, I appreciate you passing it over to me because I actually would like to go. Listen, man, the Celtics should sweep. It's as simple as that. The Celtics should sweep. Tyrese Halliburton had a left hamstring injury, left hamstring soreness. They're classifying that. They're classifying it as that. That worries me. It worries me not only for him wanting to play for Team USA this summer. It worries me for him going into next season because he's been battling through that injury since he got it, and he finally looked 100% close to it, and then he gets re-injured again. So I'm wishing the best for Tyrese Halliburton. And this game, the Pacers came out flat in the second quarter. When you are a team that does not have the talent of the team that you're going up against, you cannot lose the effort battle. And Indiana lost the effort battle, and there's too many players on this team that they just look lost in this moment. Aaron Nesmith was flailing around and he was just out of control. He didn't play with any poise at all. Pascal Siakam had a great game. He was the only one that was really doing anything of notice and worth for Indiana, but Miles Turner couldn't get it going. I still want Tyrese to be more aggressive. Before he went out with the injury, he had to be more aggressive. He took 8 shots on the night in 27 minutes. That's just not enough. And they didn't get the advantage with their bench that they usually get against opposing teams. I think Boston's guard play this series has been awesome. Drew Holiday's averaging 20. Derek White's averaging close to 20. Drew Holiday, this is a renaissance for him because usually he's not the most efficient player on offense in years previous with the Bucks. He wasn't that. But with the Celtics, he's playing really well, and you have to feel good about that. And Jaylen Brown was unstoppable, getting whatever he wanted. And I felt like he set the tone for Boston tonight. He was attacking. He was going downhill. He was being ultra aggressive. And Tatum, listen, man, he had a bad game. I don't care about the 23, 6, and 5. He had a bad game. When they were up double digits in the fourth quarter, he was boosting up his stats a little bit. Of everybody in the starting 5, plus 11, plus 11, plus 13, plus 18, he was flat at 0. He didn't have a good game. And at some point, you need to demand more from him. He shot 1 for 7 from 3, 14%. He's shooting the worst percentage from 3 of any player left in the playoffs right now. He has to figure it out. It's as simple as that. Last game, he played great through 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, he wasn't that good. I thought the overtime was a little bit overrated by everybody. I thought he was fine. Nothing spectacular. He has to find a way to play better. Boston, we know they're going to get past the East. It's about the NBA Finals for them. I'm glad that they didn't put any pressure on Kristaps to come back prematurely because you need him 100% in the NBA Finals. But it's also concerning me because it means that he is dealing with something serious. This isn't something minor that they can just toy around with. And Boston, from what I see and from what I've seen these entire playoffs, if they don't have someone like Kristaps Porzingis out there, they're really going to struggle protecting the rim. And they need him back, but I feel like his injury might be more serious than they're letting on.
I'm with you 100%. We've seen that in past years with Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, because if you're in the playoffs, you don't want to give your opponent the feeling or the inclination that guy's going to be out longer than he is. And that's probably going to be the biggest thing for the Celtics, the biggest swing factor. The other one, though, of course, is Jason Tatum, because at the end of game 1, everyone was talking about his fourth quarter performance or his overtime performance when in the fourth quarter, he nearly cost them that game with his play. And tonight, he just looked lethargic. And this is something that we've seen consistently from Tatum. Now, Dehls, I know what you're going to think. You're always wondering why Joel and some other people, including me, are so hard on Jason Tatum. And I think it comes down to his 2022 finals performance. When you lay an egg on that type of stage and the next 3 postseasons, your supporting cast elevates you in the way the Boston Celtics have, you expect a lot more consistency from Tatum. Late in the third quarter, 6 points, and it wasn't him. It was Jaylen Brown, and as Joel mentioned, Peyton Pritchard. Al Horford, I think, had the same amount of points. And on the offense side of the ball, because 1 of 7 tonight from three-point land, that's okay with me. The issue is, for me, the shot variety, the lack of rim pressure, the tough shots, and when his shot is not going in, we see him settle way too much. And that's my most common criticism of JT. For a guy that we always want to put in that top 5 MVP discussion, someone that is a superstar, you want to see him on the offensive end take control because his calling card is scoring. And I feel like the lack of variety in his scoring repertoire is what puts a cap in the Celtics offense when they have to play a defense like Minnesota in the NBA Finals or even a Dallas Mavericks. To me, tonight, it was like another game where it's like, I want to see a lot more consistency. But fortunately, I mean, this Celtic cast has done a fantastic job, and Jaylen Brown tonight was pretty remarkable. He had everything going.
This is the Tatum shit's pretty funny to me because, I mean, the talker yesterday, really, I'm thinking about like yesterday before the WCF, because everyone was just talking about the Celtics game. Tatum, the last 4 games, is averaging like 31, 12, and 5. And if any other superstar is doing that, Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic, Tyrese Halliburton, it's nothing but praise. And I think both things are true. I think both players in that circumstance deserves praise. Tatum, this game was bad. I am not going to sit here and argue with you. If your argument, especially with you, John, because I agree, my biggest gripe with Tatum is also his shot diet. He is 6'9". He is 220. He is faster than most guys guarding them. He is stronger than most guys guarding him. And I think he can get past most guys and finish at the rim. But he too often settles for that mid-range jumper, that sidestep three, that step back three. I agree with you. And I think his three-point percentage in this playoffs is showing that it's under 30%. It's been terrible. But I just don't know what he can do. Like, I just don't know what Jason Tatum well, I know he has to win a championship, and we haven't gotten to June yet, so that hasn't happened yet. But I see Jason Tatum go out there these last 4 or 5 games and give you 30 and give you double-digit rebounds. He's leading the Celtics in points, rebounds, and assists. He has the best assist-to-turnover ratio left in this NBA Finals in terms of players with over a 25% usage, and all it is like he's not doing enough. He's getting carried. Tonight, did he get carried? Absolutely. But that's why you give Jaylen Brown $300 million. That's why you trade for Drew Holiday. That's why Derek White has been one of the biggest improvements this season out of all players in the NBA. So basketball at the end of the day is a team sport. There's many times when you're winning a championship, it's not just the star player. LeBron needed Ray Allen to hit that three to win the NBA Finals. Nikola Jokic needed Jamal Murray to step up in the biggest moments to hit shots down the stretch. If you're just expecting Jason Tatum to go out there and average 40, 15, and 10 for the entire playoff run, it's not going to happen. And realistically, it's going to be very difficult for any player in the NBA to just completely have a stranglehold on an offense like that, to have a 50% usage rate and put up those numbers. I thought Tatum tonight did not play well. I am with you guys. The second half, he boosted his stats. I respect that because at the end of this ECF,
fourth quarter,
especially third
quarter,
minute. Hey, third quarter he did his thing too. Third quarter did his thing too at 8 points in the third, 11 points in the fourth. And you know, maybe the end of season numbers will look a little better because of that. But these last 4 games, he's been pretty fucking great, and nobody really cares. And then he has a stinker, and everyone's like, "Well, I told you, he's been carried." If you've been watching the Celtics for these last 2 series, the Cavs series and this Pacers series, and really post game 2 of this Miami series, he has been the number 1 guy on offense almost every single possession, as he should be, because he's the best player on this team. He is the best playmaker. To me, he's the best scorer. To me, he's the most versatile defender. Jason Tatum is the best player on this team. Is he going to have moments when his teammates lift him up? Absolutely. But I'm also confused as to why Tatum goes on a 4-game stretch where he averages 32, 12, and 5, and everyone's like, not good enough.
Hold up.
I don't get it.
This is the issue. You mentioned LeBron James. How many points did LeBron James score in a row before Ray Allen hit that shot in the fourth quarter?
A ton.
It was like 13 straight,
okay.
Right?
He scored a ton of points in a row to even get them to that position. It's a fact that in game 1, Jason Tatum missed clutch baskets in the fourth quarter when the game was on the line,
bro. He won. If it wasn't for Jason Tatum, they probably lose that game.
If it wasn't for Jaylen Brown, they lose that game.
Correct.
And Jaylen Brown tonight was the best player on the court. He had 40 dominant points. You're not going to tell me that last night Jason Tatum's performance was better than tonight Jaylen Brown. It wasn't even close.
I mean, no. Jaylen Brown just had 40.
But Jaylen Brown did it in a more aggressive manner as well. He had his points were more impactful. Jason Tatum added to his total. I think for a majority, game 1, he played great. I will chalk that game up to a great game. He has had a great 4 games, yes, in a row before tonight, game 2. You ask, what else does Jason Tatum need to do? He needs to play better. That's what he needs to do. He went 1 for 7. He's shooting the lowest percentage from 3 amongst every player remaining in the playoffs so far. What are we talking about here? In this series, he has 9 assists to 8 turnovers. The guy that you're saying has the best assist to turnover ratio in the playoffs left amongst guys with high usage, he has 9 assists to 8 turnovers against the Indiana Pacers, one of the worst defenses in the league.
Before the series,
it definitely is something he's shooting.
This is one of the even if you're saying what, like I feel like you think Jason Tatum has been playing phenomenal these playoffs, and people are just pulling out of thin air why he is getting criticized. These playoffs, he's averaging 25, 10, and 5. Those are great. Shooting 48.3% EFG. Jaylen Brown is averaging 23, 6, and 3, shooting 60% EFG. He's been far more efficient. Luka Doncic SGA, Anthony Edwards, Nikola Jokic, Jalen Brunson. You go down a list of guys in their postseason numbers, they're all better than Jason Tatum these playoffs. That's a fact. Jason Tatum, amongst all the star players in these playoffs, has played the worst. That's a fact. So when you say what else does he need to do, he needs to play better. He needs to play up to his potential.
Who's played better the last 5 games, Anthony Edwards or Jason Tatum? Who's played better?
Jason Tatum, but who's played better for the playoffs? Who's played better for the playoffs? Dehls, who's played better for the playoffs?
I really don't care what happened in round 1.
Who's played better? What do you mean? He was great versus Denver in the second round.
Games like 5, 6, and 7, it was pretty mediocre.
Games 5, 6, and 7. What are you talking about? Game 6, he had 27 points and had the highest plus minus on the team when they blew them out. What are you talking about?
What do you have in game 5? What do you have in game 7?
Game 6. So game 7, okay, he shot poorly in game 7. Game 6, he was phenomenal. He had 27 points.
Joel, you brought up a point.
What are you talking about?
You brought up a point a couple episodes ago. I don't know if it was a live reaction, might have been in the studio, and you said, why do Jason Tatum fans bring themselves up when it's talked about other superstars? When Ant Edwards has a bad game, it's like, well, what if Jason Tatum had that game? What would the talk be?
Like
this is why. It's because Tatum has 4 games in a row where he's far and away the best player on the team, and to me, it's not even close. The responsibility he has on offense, the responsibility Tatum has on offense compared to Jaylen Brown, who I love like a brother, is night and day. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum's usage rate, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I would love to see Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's usage rate. He's initiating the offense almost every time down the court. He's the one screening almost every single action down the court. Jaylen Brown has been phenomenal. He just had 40, and you mentioned the efficiency, but it's different responsibility for these guys on offense.
Tatum's usage is only 1% higher, but I agree with you, though. I do totally agree with you. The Celtics offense is run through Tatum, and when Brown's playing off of that on a second side action, it's a completely different role. My criticism, partly tonight, I was a little bit off put by the fact he was not trying hard defensively. I felt like he could have put a lot more effort in if the shots aren't going in. And that's one thing you talked about, I thought, very well in the last episode. When a guy's not shooting well, I'm fine with that. But what else you can do to impact the game? Tatum can bring a lot more when the shots aren't going in. But the biggest thing to me is where we see Jaylen Brown attacking, getting downhill, putting pressure on the paint, and even opening up the floor. I know he's not the best read and react decision maker on rim reads. He's at least getting downhill. I want to see more of that from Tatum. As you highlighted, he can. I think it's more of a consistency thing. And also physicality. I think he just got to kind of like stop giving that. And we see this with guys like Jimmy Butler, who don't have the most astounding physical traits. I think it's somewhere in there. And the last thing I kind of wanted to say for Boston is I think it really does come down to Tatum doing this in the finals. If he's going to sleepwalk his way to the NBA finals with the supporting cast carrying him there, and then he balls out and plays remarkable versus an elite defense and plays consistent as a scorer offensively, you know what? All the Tatum criticism will overcome it. And year 7, year 8, then the narrative on him will change because he's finally scaled his game to be an elite level scorer in that condensed playoff setting. Until he does, when he has these lackadaisical, inconsistent moments as a scorer, we're going to say he's not a superstar, and that's okay. We think he's a really good player still and a franchise face, of course.
Listen, John and Dehls, it's fair that I think Tatum does catch too much slack. I'm not discounting that. I don't think anybody came away from game 1 thinking Anthony Edwards played great. I think everybody thought Anthony Edwards should have been better. Against the Nuggets, game 7, he shot poorly. But Dehls, you mentioned it yourself. He did everything else. He locked up Jamal Murray in the second half. He had 8 rebounds. He had 7 assists. In game 5, he had 27 points, and he could have had more had they played more minutes, but they blew the Nuggets out the water, and he was clearly the best player. In game 3, he had 44 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Game 1, he had 27, 2 and 7. And then against Phoenix, he had 2 40-point games. He dominated Phoenix. So, no, it was against the Nuggets. Game 1, 43. Game 2, 27. And then game 4, 44. Anthony Edwards, it's a fact that he's been better than Jason Tatum in these playoffs. That's not even an argument. The fact that Jason Tatum,
4 games he hasn't been.
Okay, fine. Last 4 games, whatever. The fact that Jason Tatum has been the worst young star in these playoffs, and he's faced the weakest competition. Yes, he deserves to be criticized. He's facing the weakest comp of every star in a playoff so far. That's a fact.
And I look up, and the Celtics have 2 losses through, what are we now, 8, 10?
They should.
8 and 2?
They should.
Not bad.
They should. You faced the Cavs with 2 games and no Donovan Mitchell.
Shout out.
You faced the Heat with no Jimmy Butler. Who were the defenders, perimeter defenders that could guard Tatum on the Heat? I'm listening.
Nobody.
Can you name me the names? I want to laugh.
No, nobody could guard him.
Can you name me the names, John? No, name me the names. Name me the
Best
names of the players
options?
on the Heat. Name me the
Martin,
perimeter defenders that were
Bam.
having to guard Tatum. But we know Bam's not guarding Tatum. Name me the other perimeter guys.
Jaime Jaquez.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's a short list of wins here without Jimmy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's no denying it. It's been very weak competition. Boston's took care of every team they've played so far. I'm just curious to see how these next couple of games go. And I think one thing that needs to be talked about before we finish this live stream is how well Pascal Siakam played tonight. Please. I know we've been talking about Jason Tatum quite a bit, but he had himself a remarkable game. Goes 13 of 17 from the field. And you talk about scoring variety, he was doing everything, playing off ball, getting put back dunks, his mid-range shot creation, the turnarounds. And with Haliburton playing kind of sluggish as a scorer, we saw him also in a couple of back-to-back key threes in the third quarter, or the second quarter it might have been, to make it a just 2 or 3 possession game. This was a 6-point game going into halftime. And I feel like right now Pascal Siakam's quite clearly the Pacers' best player. But to me, it's just the difference it's been going from Toronto without a point guard, playing next to some pretty tough spacing lineups, and then not really having that complement in the front court. Miles Turner's going to be able to space the floor for him. The transition from that offense to this one for Indiana has clearly maximized his game. And I think we're seeing right now, when we're ranking players, when we're ranking bigs and forwards, he's got to be raised with this playoff performance, especially after that tough second half of the first round series, that tough start to the Knicks series. He's slowly starting to bounce back, and I think he needs a lot more respect.
He's earning a max contract right now. That's what he's doing. He's earning that. And
Player.
Indiana's going to give it to him.
He was a max player.
Let me ask you something, Dehls and John. Are the Celtics making the NBA Finals in the East if Jason Tatum's not on the team, given this run?
No. I think that's crazy. That is insane to ask.
So they don't beat the Heat with no Jimmy Butler, with no Tatum?
I don't think they get past this Pacers team right now, unless Haliburton's out the rest of the series.
Which he might be. Which he might be.
If Haliburton's out,
he might be.
I'm not even joining this stupidity, bro.
You don't. Without Jason Tatum, do you beat the Heat in the first round?
They have a healthy team.
Maybe
with no Jimmy Butler,
probably, but that's like a 6-7 game series.
Do you beat the Cavs?
I mean, the Cavs are missing their 2 best players, Dehls.
Yeah, but okay.
I would say no Donovan Mitchell, maybe, but again, probably like a 6-7 game series.
I think the Celtics beat the Cavs without, and that's not because they're going to be better without Tatum. It's because the Cavs are missing their 2 best players too. That's the main reason why.
So I'm looking at matchup minutes because people in the comments, they said Bam was guarding Tatum. Matchup minutes. Caleb Martin had 21 matchup minutes on Jason Tatum. Haywood Highsmith had 12. Max Strus had 10. DeLon Wright had 8. Hero had 6. Kevin Love had 6. Bam Adebayo had 4 matchup minutes on Jason Tatum.
Is that including the Cavs series? Can you mention Max Strus?
In the Cavs series, the number 1 matchup was Evan Mobley, 23 minutes on
Max Strus came up
on
him. The Heat players, unless maybe you're looking at last year's.
No, I'm looking at it as a total.
Okay.
These playoffs. So Mobley's 1, then it's Caleb, then it's Haywood Highsmith, then it's Max Strus, then it's Karis LeVert. That's the top 5 defenders that's been on Jason Tatum. This is laughable, Dehls, outside of Evan Mobley. This is laughable.
Haywood Highsmith's a really good wing defender. But listen,
come on, John. This is
laughable. If you
take
Tatum off the Celtics, they're not going to have anywhere near enough initiation. With Jaylen Brown having to face set defenses, I think he'll look like a different player. And then the step beyond that is, okay, Tatum's been inconsistent as a scorer. We'd like to see more from him as a complete 3-level option. But at the end of the day, he is what opens up the game for Derek White and Drew Holiday. You raise their workload on offense, and without Kristaps Porzingis, I think that would be a very ugly second-round series, and I don't think they get to the finals. Maybe
I like to come up here and think we're better than like national media talk heads. And I like to come up here and think that we're not Colin Coward. And
I'm with you.
Colin Coward.
Don't you listen to Colin Coward?
I haven't listened.
You listen to him all the time. You used to quote that man.
I agree with you.
Because I mean, the comments that have been around the Celtics, you have Colin Coward, who I just saw his clip on Twitter, and he was like, the Celtics might win a championship this year, but they're not going to be a dynasty. And I'm like, okay, bro, like the goalpost is at an all-time high for how we're moving this goalpost. You have Kendrick Perkins saying he should score 50 when he put up 36 in game 1. Like, I like to have like real conversations about the Celtics and real conversations about Jason Tatum. I don't think Jason
These
Tatum.
are real conversations.
These
What did I say?
like,
What did I say? That's
just,
a fake
these
conversation,
troll
Dehls.
conversations that feels like you're just like fishing to get comments like, "Oh my God, he's cheese cooking. Jason Tatum sucks." It's just like, bro, we're up 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes.
Jason Tatum, in my opinion, played amazing in Game 1 outside of the fourth quarter.
He wasn't good in Game 2.
In Game 2, but the Celtics have built a team that you can afford to have a bad game from Jason Tatum and still win. Like, to me, I'm looking at this and saying, like, this is a positive, because one of our biggest issues that we've had in recent years is when Tatum goes to the bench, this team at moments has fallen apart in previous playoff runs.
Correct.
This year, this is by far and away the best plus minus we've had with Jason Tatum on the bench, and everyone's turned it as a negative. It's like when we're talking about MVP conversations, all NBA first team conversations, like, well, they're just as good or better without Jason Tatum off the court. And I'm thinking, like, I guess if I'm like a true Jason Tatum truther till death, and I don't care about what happens in terms of wins and losses, that would really matter to me. But at my heart and at my core, I am a Boston Celtic fan. So the fact that Jason Tatum could go out there and put up a real stinker like this, and we win by double digits, I'm sitting here thinking, what happens if he just keeps playing like he did the previous 4 games? And he's given me 30 and 12 and 5. We might win the finals in 5 fucking games. Like, I understand everyone. I think everyone wants Tatum to be like top 5 best in the world. I think that's what everyone wants and everyone expects, because
that's what you expect.
I don't expect that. You expect.
Do you not expect? You say he's.
I do not.
You looked me straight in my face and told me that he's better than Luka Doncic.
In my opinion, he's the best player in the world.
So you're trolling by saying that. You're trolling by saying that.
No. Can I get my point off? Can I get my point off?
Yes.
Everyone, I think, wants and expects Jason Tatum to be the best player in the world. With the amount of hate he gets, like, it's entering LeBron James level of hate. No, John, it fucking is. No, because this brother just put up 36 points in Game 1 and scored 10 in overtime, and it's like, it wasn't that impressive.
LeBron James carried bums to the finals and got hated.
Everyone wants him to be this great, sensational player. When he plays great and sensational, nobody cares. When he has great games, nobody cares, and no one gives him credit.
This whole conversation,
he has a bad game, and it's like he sucks. I'm like, what side is it? Like, I don't get it.
Hold up. You're saying part of the Tatum hate is trolls. So if half of the people who disrespect Jason Tatum are not serious, he cannot be anywhere near as.
But like, I don't know how you legitimately could look at that Game 1 and be like, Jason Tatum didn't play well.
Nobody said
outside the fourth quarter.
That's what we said.
Excuse me. Let me clarify. An overrated overtime when he outscored the entire Pacers team, bro. What are we doing?
Facts.
He outscored the Pacers team in overtime.
He was left open, bro. 2 for 4 from the field, wide open 3-point shot and a bunny layup.
I don't remember though how many of them are off of.
So timeout. Do you want him to miss the open shot?
Bro,
do you want him?
He gotta make it.
Do you want him to miss the open shot?
You thought
you want him to go 0 for 4 and then hit 2 tough step back 3-pointers that, like, you're going to criticize him if he misses it. Now you're criticizing if he makes it. Like, how am I supposed to get up here?
You just said everybody expects Jason Tatum to be a top 5 player, best player in the world. Don't you expect that?
What do you mean?
Don't you expect Jason Tatum to make that leap into a legitimate top 5 player in the world?
I think yes, and I think once he wins a championship this year, he will deservedly be in that conversation.
Do you think, based on how he's played in these playoffs thus far, he's making a better case for himself?
I think the Heat series wasn't great. I thought basically the entire Cavs series was pretty damn amazing. I thought Game 1 was amazing. I thought Game 2 was a disappointment.
That doesn't answer my question.
No.
Has he made a better case for himself throughout these playoffs to be a legitimate top 5 player in the world?
I think he's been pretty damn good. I don't think
you're not answering my question.
I don't think he's made the step into being like this locked and loaded top 5 guy. But like I said, when he goes and wins a championship, he'll be there.
We haven't even mentioned
me. Sorry, John. You asked me, or you asked everybody here, what else does Jason Tatum have to do? I told you he's playing the worst of all the stars that was in the playoffs.
It's not only
He
that.
hasn't had the playoffs Donovan Mitchell has had. Jalen Brunson, Nikola Jokic, Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic, SGA, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. They all in their production. They played better than Jason Tatum.
Those dudes are in Cancun right now. I really don't care.
Okay, I understand that, but you asked what else does Jason Tatum need to do? He needs to play better. That's what we're saying. He needs to play better. So when you say we're just trolling, we're saying he needs to play better.
No, bro,
we're
because
not
we
saying
get up
he's
here
whack.
after game 1, and the first thing out of your mouth, out of Drew's mouth, and out of John's mouth, we're saying like, damn, Jason Tatum was terrible in that fourth quarter. And it's like, bro, he saved us in overtime. No one else could score. No one else scored more than 2 points for the Celtics in overtime. Tatum had 10. It's like, damn, bro, like this, or we're just gonna come up here and just nitpick Tatum like bad, and just throw it all the good.
I said he played great in game 1. He played great in game 1.
Your first statement after was not about that.
Bro, in overtime, you're not about to tell me that the Celtics were getting locked up and nobody could do anything, and Tatum was just willing the offense. His 3-point shot came off a Derek White dribble drive where he was doubled and a spin off of Nembhard on the left corner, and then he made a layup. He was 2 for 4 in the overtime period. He was 2 for 7 in the fourth quarter.
In the the shots,
I don't think he shouldn't miss the shot, but you're acting like I was getting clamped up.
Listen, you're right. We do tend to emphasize and highlight Jason Tatum's struggles. Part of that is, hey, look, when you're down by 3 and you're taking contested mid-range 2, and then you're missing these huge, wide-open threes in the fourth quarter, and we got people saying after the game, look at Tatum's numbers. It's like, hey, in these crucial gotta-have situations, he is not delivering as likely or as often as you would like him to.
He was also
I'm not done. For us to have the confidence, he's going to look different this time around in the finals. One step beyond that, we've mentioned the first rounds of the playoffs, the 2 teams who played are battered injuries. Yes, he could not score today in one of the worst defenses in the NBA. The Pacers defense is literally one of the worst we've seen, and he could not get by. He could not create any separation, and I think that is another part of this too. We want to see him dominate in this series, and if he's not going to, there's going to be a lot more expectations placed on him in the next round.
He could very well dominate in game 3 and game 4. The question I asked you was valid. Given the path the Celtics have had thus far with the injuries to Donovan Mitchell, with now the injury to Tyrese, who knows he's going to play game 3 or game 4, I think very well the Celtics could make the NBA Finals even if Jason Tatum was not playing. That's how weak the comp has been, because it's not even a testament to how great the Celtics are. That's just how weak the comp has been, and there's a rude awakening waiting for you in the West if you have to face Minnesota or Dallas, because they're going to spank you, Dehls.
It's not going to be Aaron Nesmith or one of these Pacers wins. It's going to be Jaden McDaniels guarding, man. And that's the series that y'all have been talking about for a while, man. Y'all are talking about that last March as a possible wing duo matchup, and I'd love to see it. I had a question after this game. Jaylen Brown had a remarkable performance. We're looking at number 2s. Who would you guys rather have, Kyrie or Jaylen Brown, with the 2 years they've had and just moving forward?
I'm going with Kyrie Irving.
That's a good question. That's close. It depends who my number 1 is, probably.
I agree.
Yeah.
Depends on the team. For me, face value, Kyrie's the more efficient player, the better pull-up shooter, and he's obviously the better playmaker. I think there's an element too, though, where Kyrie in this stage of his career is more of an injection of pace, an injection of shot making as a number 2. He's not going to create the same amount of separation off the dribble that he would in 2016 at 23, 24 years old. With Jaylen Brown, in this stage of his career, with his youth, you see a lot more of that physicality, be able to bump, play through a guy into the chest, and then getting downhill. Defensively, of course, Kyrie's defended pretty well this postseason. I would still rather have Jaylen Brown for the versatility he brings. At 6'6", 215 pounds, I would say, is pretty chiseled. I think it's very close. It depends on what your number 1 is. You're right. But I'd still probably go Kyrie. I'm not going to lie to you. Kyrie at the postseason he's had, I would lean him.
I'll say this about the competition the Celtics have faced in this run. It's been super easy. Super easy. We've got very fortunate with injuries, although we've been dealing with injuries ourselves, especially, of course, to Kristaps Porzingis. But I think on the other hand, when you set yourself up for success, when you make the ECF 6 out of 8 years, you're probably bound at one point to get lucky. You know what I mean? Like, if you're making it 6 out of 8 years, one of those years is probably going to go your way. if you continuously have great regular seasons and you're the number 1, you're number 2 seed, and you're playing lesser competition in the first and second round, and then one year you get lucky with an injury like Middleton a couple of seasons ago, this season really it looks like for 3 rounds in a row, like I get it. They got lucky with injuries, but they've also been a fantastic team for 6 out of 8 years, just haven't been able to get that championship. So if you're consistently great, eventually once you get into these moments, things start breaking your way, like the Jaylen Brown shot in the corner just a few years ago. I'm thinking about the Toronto game in the Bumble when they hit that 3 in the corner. It was like a 180 all over again, except it's for Boston this time. So when you set yourself up to succeed, when you set yourself up to consistently be able to make deep playoff runs, every once in a while, you're going to have one of these where you get lucky with injuries and it looks like you're going to have one of the easier paths to the finals.
Dehls, I'm 1,000% with you. When you win 64 games, you're going to play a team that's limping into the postseason that are barely making it through the play-in tournament. That's what we saw last year. It's what we saw this year. And so you can't really criticize the Celtics for beating decent teams. I just think it's adding context and a layer of, hey, are they changing the narrative? Or more importantly, screw the narrative. Are they changing as a team or are they growing? And I think that starts with their top 2 guys because we know the depth the top 7 this team has is pretty damn good. I'm so high on Peyton Pritchard. I feel like he could start on a couple of teams. He played quite well tonight. You go down the board on the roster, we don't really have questions about D. White or Jaylen Brown. Maybe some smaller ones. It's just really those big talking points with the star players at the very top. Porzingis and Tatum's performance. You're good.
How would you say the Celtics clutch time offense or clutch time in general was yesterday? Because I thought it was sensational.
You talking about game 2 yesterday?
Game 1.
Game 1, so 2 days ago. It was pretty good in overtime, but in the fourth quarter, I felt like in a couple of different possessions, they weren't getting a great look. They were getting good triple drives. They're getting good penetration. I do think that Tatum 2-point attempt, and they're down by 3. I'm just like, hey, with you, it was like a minute or two. It was like under a minute left in the game specifically. I think it might have been around 35 seconds. There were certain moments where it could have been better, but it was fine. It was good overall.
We got super chats. Heat check goes, let's stop putting Tatum in the top 5 in the MVP races. He's not even the best player on his team.
Just to throw that out real quick, the Celtics have played only 11 clutch time minutes this playoff run, 130 offensive rating, and 88 defensive rating, and a net rating of 42.
Yeah,
small sample size, but filthy.
Yeah, that's great. Daniel Guerrero goes, if Tatum performs in great in the finals, I don't want to hear haters like Joel and John move the goalposts, refusing to apologize to Tatum and the Celtics. This is the thing y'all don't understand about me. If I'm wrong, I will say Jason Tatum proved it, and he won an NBA championship. Just like in the regular season in the NFL, when we always had these Brock Purdy discussions, if Brock Purdy played better in the Super Bowl, I would have given his credit and said, you know what? He did his thing, but he missed plays in the Super Bowl, and he showed why he limits the 49ers. And that's why I never admitted that I was wrong about him, because I've been right about Brock Purdy all along. He is exactly who I think he is. He's a good quarterback. He's nothing special. He's not in the top 10. But also, to the super chat, is it out of the realm of possibility that in the finals, Jaylen Brown could win finals MVP?
No. It's possible.
I mean, it's definitely, yeah. I was gonna say it's possible, but I say Tatum definitely has the inside track.
25 to 30% chance.
So do you, Dehls, do you think, because you said he got to win a championship to solidify him as a top 5 player, if Jason Tatum in the finals, the Celtics, if they win a championship, but Jaylen Brown wins finals MVP and clearly outplays Tatum, are you still putting Tatum top 5 just because he won, or he has to also perform like that guy to be put in that top 5?
Of course, he has to perform. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends what it looks like. Like, does Jaylen Brown just go out there and average like 33 on 60% shooting? Then, like, all right, like, you know what I mean? I can't really. And he's guarding Kyrie and on the other side. But yeah, I mean, if Jaylen Brown's out there and Tatum's just kind of pissing his way to 24 points per game on like 39% field goal percentage, like, yeah, I mean, I can't sit here and be like, Tatum carried us to victory, but I think that's kind of been what the Celtics have been all season long. Like, Tatum's the head of the snake, but all season long it's been team. It's been, you got 2 all defensive teams. You got Jaylen Brown, who's the first runner-up on the All-NBA team. You have Kristaps Porzingis when he was healthy being the biggest X factor for us. Like, Tatum's been the best player on this team, but they're here because as a collective, they have the best, in my opinion, roster in the NBA.
Hey, can I say something? I'm not a Jason Tatum hater. If you want to call me one, that's fine. I'm a Jason Tatum skeptic. I do not see him being a top 5 player. I also think he's Paul George light in some aspects of his game. That is based off of the 6 playoff runs we've seen.
No, Paul George is Jason Tatum light.
I mean, Paul
Jason
George
Martinez goes, can't talk about easy when the Knicks barely beat Embiid, being held together by 2 paper clips and glue. Lost
that
when
was
it came to the
before he got hurt.
Pacers. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you want to knock the Knicks run, all right, fine, do it. It doesn't matter to me. Okay, yes, you know, the Sixers were, Embiid was hurt at least, but he played one of his best series of his career. If anything, I think you could look to their bench as to the reason why they lost that series, the minutes without Embiid, because they beat us with Embiid. They beat us with Embiid. I just want to let that be known. And I'm not over here glowing about the Knicks run. Listen, the Pacers beat us, but it is what it is. You know, we got to find a way to be healthier during these times, and injuries happen. But if we were healthy, we're in the Eastern Conference Finals right now, and we're giving the Celtics a better fight than Indiana, 100% healthy. That's a fact.
Embiid played pretty well considering he was injured on the offensive end. Before he got hurt, they were a 29-13 team in late January, so I feel like that series is almost a little bit different because of how good a 7 seed Philly was. Also, can I say one last thing?
Yes, John.
I said Jason Tatum is Paul George. I don't think that's really disrespectful because Paul George at his peak was just in the same exact vein. A top 10 player who's probably not top 5. But they'll have some moments where he looks like a top 5 player. I think
Tatum's had a better peak than Paul George already. And he's like kind of just entering his prime.
2019 Paul George, that regular season, and then 2013 playoff Paul George, the numbers weren't there. The defensive value, all things considering that era he played in.
I mean, did you see Jason Tatum in that Cavs series guarding Evan Mobley, then switching guard in the perimeter? Like he's right up there.
But okay,
his defense has been elite these playoffs.
What year's peak?
This game was piss poor, but yes. Sorry, what, John?
What year's peak Tatum? What do you think?
It might not even be here yet, but I mean, he averaged 30 last year.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying
this season's putting up like 27. I mean, if you're just looking like statistically, Paul George just can't hold his jockstrap, respectfully.
Oh my
What's up, Drew?
God.
What the? How did I get here?
He nearly took out the big 3 Miami Heat.
You know, I love how we made this 40 minutes, Drew. I'm glad you joined. We talked about Jaylen Brown for a minute, but this has been
we haven't
Jason Tatum hate
Brown more than
what are you doing?
3 minutes. Jaylen Brown has not been talked about for more than 3 minutes on this show.
Are you fucking kidding me? The only thing I asked when I said I wasn't going to be able to make it was make sure you talk about the GOAT Jaylen Brown. But no, John has to make it a Jason Tatum agenda every time he's up here talking about the Boston Celtics. I'm a Jason Tatum skeptic. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that, not even for a second, John. How about we acknowledge the number 1 on the Boston Celtics, Jaylen Brown? Can we do that?
Oh my God, Cook, let's hear it, man.
Do it. You know, you're doing the same thing we was doing because you propping up Jaylen Brown is knocking down Tatum, essentially. That's how you're spinning it.
I'll be
honest, actually more disrespectful what you're saying, quite easily.
What I'm saying, listen, the honest to God's truth is this. Jason Tatum last season led the Boston Celtics in every single category, right? And this was, Derek White has been the best in this series. Jaylen Brown has been the best in this series. You have to acknowledge what Jason Tatum did, regardless of whether you like him or not. In this series, so far in game 1, Jason Tatum was not good in the 4th. In overtime, he went out there and was the main reason they were able to close out in overtime. Tonight, it was simple. It was a Jaylen Brown night. He was otherworldly, over 40. I mean, come on. I mean, we know what Jaylen Brown's capable of when he wants to get into that zone, but we knew that the Boston Celtics offense would be able to score against Indiana's because Indiana's defense has been the biggest question mark of their team all season long. It was unfortunate, of course, we didn't see Tyrese Haliburton come back in the 4th, but I mean, Pascal Siakam gave a hell of a performance tonight. But when you have Jaylen Brown playing at this level, the Boston Celtics become very difficult to beat. And this is exactly to Dell's point. He believes that they have the best roster in the NBA remaining. That's not wrong to say, especially when we've seen them dominate tonight, win game 1, even though it was in a little scary of a fashion, going up 2-0 without Kristaps Porzingis, who have a lot of people have deemed their number 2. Now, let's not make this a Jason Tatum topic when this should be a conversation about how dominant the Boston Celtics were tonight. When you have your number 2s going off, you usually praise the number 2 without knocking the number 1. Jaylen Brown was amazing tonight. You can give him his flowers, deservedly so, without knocking Jason Tatum. That's simple.
You started off your statement by saying
Tatum
the
did
real
play like
number one
shit
on the team.
Of course, I'm going to come up here and talk shit, but we obviously know the number one on this team is Jason Tatum.
Not all
Jason
the time when you have the best roster, you win a championship. The 49ers had the best roster. They ain't win it. They ain't win. You want to know why?
Football
You
are
want to know
different.
why? You want to know why?
Basketball and
You wanna know
football are
why?
drastically different, Joel.
Because the
It is
other
a fair
guy on the
point.
other side of the field, Patrick Mahomes, an all-time great, led that team. And the Celtics are going to run into one of them dudes, Luka or Anthony Edwards, when they get to the finals.
Basketball and football are drastically different. 9
What's
times out of
real?
10, the best
What's
roster
different?
in basketball wins.
What's Ant Edwards
Bro,
going
it's
to do?
the
Go out
best
there and give me
scorer.
Because
19
it's
points a
11
game?
players total for basketball. You have 11 on 11. You have around 30 guys on a team that matter.
You think the
and are
Warriors
in
beat the
win.
Celtics because they had the better team, or Steph Curry was the best player in the
A
series?
little bit of both. I mean, the Golden State Warriors had the most continuity. Obviously, they
That
had the
team was
championship experience.
But
Yes, they had the best player in the series on top of arguably having the better team as a whole.
that analogy wasn't terrible because last year in the postseason and many years past, you're going to see the superstar who's raising his play to the highest level, lead his team to the furthest. That could be compared an NFL quarterback to an NBA superstar, even if the sports are totally different.
No, because having Patrick Mahomes changes everything.
Totally not DJ Dehls. I appreciate you standing 10 toes for us C's fans here and in the Discord.
There's not many
Well,
of us out
ultimately-
there, man.
Oh,
Yo,
we
Joel,
said
nice haircut, by the way.
Thank you, brother.
Tatum. I mean, I'm calling Dehls Tatum. Dehls asked,
I love
what
that.
else does Tatum
Compliment.
need to do? What else does Tatum need to? I said he needs to play better in these playoffs. That's it. He needs to raise up his stats.
And
Did he
And Drew,
play
my,
bad tonight? Like objectively, we're just
Yes, he
looking at
played
him.
bad.
I
Yes,
don't think he
bad.
played well.
Yes, he played bad.
Drew, my
It was bad,
counterpoint
bro.
to
It was
that
bad.
was that before this game, his
They won
last
by
four, he
almost,
was
they
putting
won
up.
by almost 20 points.
In spite of Tatum playing poorly.
Yeah, that's what I was dealing with the whole time. But Drew, my counterpoint to that was I saw Tatum 4 or 5 games in a row average 32, 12, and 5, and there wasn't a peep from anybody. The
Agreed.
peep was he has to be better in the fourth quarter after averaging 32, 10, and 5 over like a 5-game sample.
I was
It's
going to
like,
say,
all right,
listen, we saw him lead his team in every single stat.
he still did.
I
Well,
mean-
after tonight, JB probably leads him in points.
No,
Who
I'm saying in last
criticized
series.
Jason Tatum for the Cavs series.
I mean, there's really no real evaluation to be had on that series because Donovan and Jared Allen were both out.
Nobody has criticized Tatum on that Cavs series. And in game one, I already told you he played great. That it's as simple as that. He might have been poor in the fourth quarter, but he played great that game. That's not a knock. But objectively, throughout these playoffs, you measure his stats next to every star. They are the worst. That's a fact. They
And
are
it's
the
crazy 'cause
worst.
we're the only one up 2-0.
Okay. Yeah, you're facing
still
some
alive.
Mickey Mouse ass teams, some Winnie the Pooh ass
Say the
teams.
Pacers
The
could
teams
beat
that
us.
you said that would be able to have a chance at beating
Hey, I'm
them.
not going to lie. This Pacers team's not a Mickey Mouse type of team. They're
Yeah, game
They're
one,
continuing to get
they should
better.
have beat them. They collapsed down the stretch,
They
whatever.
choked.
And now Tyrese Halliburton is hurt. He might not even play games 3 and game 4. He might not play the rest of the series.
which would be a
They
huge
were
problem,
up
but
comfortably going into the fourth.
with how well Siakam's playing, this Pacer team, their offense itself is a real test.
Yeah, Pascal
of course.
Pascal is amazing.
Tatum averages 60-20, 60-20 and 10 as well. Will still hit on him. Yes, because I think he should have went for 70, 30, and 20. Come on. All right, that's gonna do it for us, boys. Drew came in a little late, but we still got some
That's a
time
clutch
with
out.
him.
Facts.
All right, fellas, 48 minutes on the Boston Celtics and the Pacers series. I'm proud of us. I really am.
You
I
are-
love
I'm
this,
proud of y'all.
Dehls.
I wish we
I
talked more
love this.
about the Pacers and Siakam, but
I love
One
this,
thing,
man.
why did Rick Carlisle throw on the flag with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter? He took out
Yeah, that
Siakam
was
with
a
like
little bit
9
early.
minutes to go. It was very
kind of
odd.
like Sticks and company. And
It's
that was-
probably
that was
because Halliburton got hurt and they were just like, God forbid.
It's like a 13, 14 point
was-
game at that point.
yeah.
9 minutes,
They
like
could have
anything
cut
can
to
happen.
single digits.
Hey, you know
Yeah.
what, Dehls? If the Celtics win
Possession.
the championship, go on NBA.com, go crazy with the Celtics championship merch. I got you.
I appreciate that.
That's a
fellas.
good friend.
Put that on the company card.
Yes, I got you. No, I'll put it on my individual card. I'll put it
Oh,
on.
look
I'll
at
get
him.
it for you. This
What
is
a
our
giant
deal.
rack of
The
points.
Celtics win a championship. Not only am I gonna be emotionally hurt, it's gonna hurt my pockets too. I'm putting it all on the line, Dehls, for you.
The resume Tatum's gonna have once he gets this chip it's gonna be legendary.
I hope so. All right, that's gonna do it. We'll catch you guys. Make sure to like the stream. Make sure to subscribe. We'll see you guys actually not tomorrow night because we will be at the Mets game tomorrow. We're probably not gonna be doing a stream. So we'll see you guys Saturday night for sure. Everybody have a great night.